Okay, hi. If you click on this video, you probably like read the title already. So I really wanted to discuss why I'm 100% sure that Julia Roberts personally made me gay. Let me just like backtrack a bit and explain like my thought process. I was reading this 2017 article by Attitude magazine that was discussing like why gay men love diva figures so much and why we're kind of like fascinated, with like these powerful and tall and like majestic women. The writer, his name is Brian. He raises the question of why gay men identify so much with those diva figures. In the article, he's discussing specifically for like singers, so like divas such as like Mariah Carey, Adele, Cher and stuff. But I personally thought that this one line kind of encapsulates all of the feelings that I have towards this divas, like figure in a more like broad point. And he writes that a more socially conscious explanation might be the shared experience of oppression. Perhaps the close link between feminism and LGBT rights can account for the unity between straight women and gay men. Perhaps we see a little of ourselves in the fiery spirited woman who fight for the spotlight against all odds. When I read this, I instantly remember a conversation I had with my mother a couple of days ago that I asked her if she thought that maybe her obsession with Julia Roberts when I was a child helped me in some way make me gay, like if you didn't catch up for my fags and, like and she's very unimaginative, so she said like no. And I was like, no, you're wrong. I'm sure. I'm 100% sure that it did like help in some capacity. And I remember when I was growing up until today, she calls Julia Roberts diva. So every time she talks about like the diva or like diva, she's referring to Julia Roberts. So I was like, that's like a very interesting like juxtaposition, and it kind of like got me thinking, like really going back to this movie that I was obsessed as a kid. And we all know that like kids, they are like very queer, like doesn't matter if you're like a girl, a boy, or anything. If you're a kid, it's like very queer. So I started like to thought and analyze how maybe this movie kind of impacted me. Like, why did it resonate so much with me? And the movie is Stepmom. It's a movie from 1988, 1998. It has Julia Roberts and Susan Sarandon. They are kind of like on this love-hate relationship towards each other, because if you don't know what the movie is about, so like Julia Roberts plays Isabel. She is like young, fiery woman, very fashion, very like job oriented, and she's about to get married to this guy who I truly don't care. And he has children, which are Anna and Ben, and they are played by the actors that would later do Johanna and Manson from Hunger Games and Klaus Baudelaire from A Series of Unfortunate Events, the one with Jim Carrey, not the Netflix one. And she's kind of like finding herself in this position of a stepmom to the kids, and she's very bad at it. In contrast, we have like Susan Sarandon, who is the biological mother of the kids, and she's like very good. She's like very angelical. She's almost like a divine figure throughout the movie. But like after like the first third of the movie, she discovered that she has cancer, and she starts like a treatment to get better, but the treatment fails. So it's ultimately about like passing like this responsibility to these younger women, and it's very like they make it very clear that Isabel's like younger, hotter, and more like inconsequent in some sort. So it's very much about like generational and how like to deal with children. But again, it's a movie that is like in the 90s. So we kind of have like this classic generational battle of some sort, like the new versus the old and how the new can learn from the old and stuff. But again, it's a 90s movie, so it's not like it's like a deep conversation or it's a very well developed plot. And Isabel's kind of takes shit for everything she does because it's never enough. But I also like remember we're gonna go like on a little bit of a deep dive later to the movie on itself. But I also remember a phrase that like queer people react as scavengers. So the representation is so small and so like lackluster that we as a community we kind of like give new sense and new interpretation to movies that maybe was not about that or didn't have like a very direct approach to like or the queer people were not like the design public. And I remember this because specifically like throughout the movie Isabel, that is Julia Roberts, and Susan Sarandon's Jackie, they are very much almost like a lesbian couple. And in some like points in the movie, you're like, just dump the father and just be together for the rest of your life. Because they have like such chemistry together. They are like very good actresses and they're very good in this role. So it's like very touching. And so I kind of wanted to explore like this new vision and kind of like make a revisitation of this movie that was so important to me growing up and kind of see what I can pick up now with more knowledge and more like life experience. So we kind of got the general plot out of the way, but something that I wanted to talk about and discuss in this essay and piece is that Julia Roberts is pretty tall. So she's 5'8", which is 173 centimeters tall. So that kind of gets the question out of, is she a good actress or is she just tall? I think both, because that's fairly tall. And she's serving like a lot of fashion in the movie. So I feel like that's like really queer. Now, you might be asking yourself, why did I also name this The Bobs That Changed My Life, episode 1? Or if you didn't, like, that's on the title card. Yes, it is. But it's because when I was thinking about the movie, I generally thought, like, okay, so Julia Roberts is playing a ginger because she's like always ginger. And she's actually blonde in this movie. And she has like a almost like it's not a bob because it's not like very symmetrical, but she has like really short hair. And then I kind of went to this loophole remembering all women who had like short hair, and then I became obsessed with the movie and I found that to be like a coincidence. So I decided like to go back to those movies with more of like a queer approach and see why it resonated with me beyond the bob, because I truly think that growing up I was being mesmerized by their bobs. So yeah, we're gonna go a little bit more in detail towards the end. But let me just give like a quick summary and feelings that I had. I took some notes, I have some key points, and I'm gonna put like some screenshots on the screen. But just like very briefly, let's go for the movie. So we started with Isabel waking up in her beautiful, beautiful apartment, and she's a mess. She's getting the kids like ready for school, and then she's like really failing at that. She's not good as a mother. And then we have a scene where Jackie shows up, and the movie establishes like pretty early that Jackie's the one in control. She has like everything fixed. She knows the kids and stuff. Something that I would like to pinpoint, very interesting, that I caught on this like rewatch is how the wardrobe talks about the characters. So Isabel's like always dressed up, very bold, very like chic, very like model, 90s model, and very powerhouse as well, just like a lot of shoulders. Jackie's always dressed as like a sitcom-y, like very like modest, muted colors to contrast the bold colors of Isabel's wardrobes. In this first part of the movie, we're also asking ourselves, where is the father? We have a very interesting scene where Isabel, like, we just got out of the mess that Isabel made with the children, trying to get them ready for school, being late. And we get a scene that she's at her job and she just come like, she burst through the doors, and she's like very in control, you know. She's very like, this is how we're gonna do. This is like, we just listen to me. I'm gonna fix this. And then her bosses, which at this point I think is like our money executives, they're like, congratulations, you're very good at this. So the movie establishes really on like she's not good as a mother, but she's a powerhouse at her job. The dichotomy, you know. Later on, we have another scene where Isabel is kind of like trying to get the kids to like her. So she gives them a puppy. Klaus Baudelaire really likes it, but Johanna does not. So she failed again. And then we also have like her failing again because she's caught like having sex in the bathroom, and she goes to Jackie to talk with Jackie about how Jackie wants her to have the talk, you know, because she was like, your daughter is 12. I don't know if she knows what sex is. And she walks into the bathroom, like, and gets like to see me and her father, you know? So, like, how do you want to proceed? And then, like, Jackie's throws a tantrum at her, saying that, oh, you know, you're kind of like ditching out because you don't think about the kids and you don't want to be responsible for them. You just want to make it easier for you. And this is like a one of the points that I think it's like a really like 90s thing in the writing process, because what exactly, like, what are we supposed to do? You know, like, isn't this a conversation that the father should be present? Because it is established, you know, like the kids like them. He's a good father. So if he's not there, why is he not having the conversation? You know, because they have like both parents, and it is established that like Isabel is not very close to them at the beginning. So like, why is not like the father that is having the conversation, or the father and the mother? Why does Jackie wants Isabel to have the conversation, you know? But again, like, she fails. This is a word that I'm gonna use a lot throughout the video. She's failing miserably at trying to be like a good mother role, if we can like put it that way. And then she fails again because she gets the boy gets lost in Central Park, and Jackie gets pissed. So I feel like this is the three initial like main screws, like, screw it up for Isabel. And then we have a scene where Jackie forgets to pick the kids from school. Isabel shows up and lie that she was the one that was supposed to pick them up, so the kids doesn't get like angry at Jackie or worried. I think this just show how she's like a very kind character. You know, she's very like, sure, she's very emotive. She's very like in control. No, I don't think she is. But she's very like bold. But she's also very like, she's human, you know. She's not played as like a bitchy character. She's a character that she's trying her best to fit in, and everyone's like pointing the finger and being like, no, you're doing wrong, you're bad at this. But she's like genuinely trying. She's genuinely trying to have a connection with the kids, the mother, you know. She's not like a bad person. I feel like this is the general description of Isabel. She's failing very much, but she is trying. At this point, we kind of start to focus more on Jackie's treatment, because again, she has a cancer and she's treating the tumor, but it's not gonna like go well from here onwards. They kind of like have a better relationship, you know. So Isabel starts like to get some points with Jackie. I feel like probably because Jackie is doing the treatment, so she's not as present. We have this beautiful scene that, although it's not like Isabel's, I feel like this is the main, like the more famous scene in the movie, where Jackie's dancing to Ain't No Mountain High Enough with her kids at their giant house. It's just so beautiful because I feel like Jackie's character is not particularly well written, but Susan Sarandon gives so much soul and so much like, she puts like just so much that you kind of like likes her too, because she's very like bitchy about, you know, she's very like protective. She wants what's better for her kids, but she's also like very reactive and she's very like hostile towards Isabel. And I really liked Isabel. So I didn't like her as a kid, but as an adult, like I can kind of see where the hate is coming from. She's also carrying a lot, you know, like in her back on her back. And then we have one of the things where I feel like it's like a really like 90s thing because the movie shows Isabel pretty much like she's not very good at being a mother, but she's really good at her job. You know, she's always in control. She's always like working. She's very secure in that area of her life. And then we have a scene where the kids are like she's late to pick the kids from school, and her boss is like, "So you kind of need to start to show up more again." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Your job is not as great as it used to be, and you're not present as you used to be." And she's like, "Well, I'm sorry if you feel that way, but I gotta pick the kids from school." So she quits. Which again, like it's tough because probably like the main thought on the movie was like, oh, she's evolving as a mother. So she's leaving her job for the kids. But I also like started to think how maybe like the boss was getting like she's not controlling her as much. So maybe he got like pissed at it. But again, like we don't have a scene that kind of establishes that. All scene that she's working, she's very much in control. So it's not even like a shift of power. It's just like out of the blue. But again, like I feel like it could have been better if it were to be taken on that direction. But it's 90s, right? So then we have a very like heartwarming scene where Isabel is talking with Jackie on the backstage of a Thanksgiving play. I don't know exactly what that is, but she's talking about like Anna's got a little interest on a boy, and the boy kind of dumped her. So she went to Isabel to ask like what to do, and Isabel was like, "You should ask your mother." So you can see that like Isabel is kind of like learning how to not step on Jackie's toes and like be present as herself and not maybe try to feel like the Jackie role, you know, and be like, oh, so your mother's like this, I gotta be like this. Just kind of like figuring out for herself how she can be herself in that relationship. But again, she fucks up. The way that she fixes the situation is by hiring a model and ask him to pretend he's the girl's boyfriend. But Anna's like 12 and the model is like, I think like he's like 18, 19 and stuff. So Jackie like freaks out. And here I'm with Jackie. I'm like, but again, like Isabel's supposed to be like this young woman who study and didn't like live a motherly life. So she just tries her best to fix things, but she like screws up a lot. And then we have like this beautiful scene and conversation between like Isabel and Jackie that they start to get closer because they realize that no matter what they do, they always have to deal with the feeling of failing as a mother because Isabel like tells Jackie that she fears that in Anna's wedding day, Anna's gonna be like, oh, I wish you were not here, but I wish my mother was here. And she feels like that would be a failure for her. And Jackie tells like, well, it would be a failure for me if she didn't like ask for that because I know I'm not gonna be here. Because in this point like the treatment's not working anymore and Jackie does not like want to seek experimental treatment because it would take her to France or Switzerland and she wants to stay at home with her family because she's already like been through a lot of treatments in the US and they didn't work. But it is like on this specific scene, they are in the diner. It's like a very intimate scene that you kind of gonna get the vibes that they're kind of like, so are they like a couple now? Because they have so much chemistry and it's such like a heartfelt scene and it's like it's just so beautiful and you're like leave the guy behind and just get together. But the end of the movie is kind of more like on that tone because in the last part of the movie, Jackie asks Isabel to like take some pictures of her and the kids because she realized she doesn't have like a lot of them and she wants to keep as many as she possibly can because now she's gonna not gonna be here. So they like get like really close together, and the movie ends with Jackie like asking for a picture with the whole family, and Isabel's like taking a picture, and she's like, "No, you come too." And the movie finishes with them like holding hands, and kind of the role, you know, like she's like, "Okay, so you are their mother now, and you're gonna be their mother," you know. Jackie says something very, very beautiful, and I can't remember if it's to the children or to Isabel's that is, look, I have their past, but you're gonna have their future. So it's like that it's really like it gets emotional, especially because Susan Sarandon is like so good, so good, so good. So the movie like finishes with them holding hands together, and it's just like the most beautiful lesbian like story ever since Carol, you know? Kate Blanchett could do this movie, like absolutely. Just get her back. So going back like to the beginning, in the article, the writer says, perhaps we see a little of ourselves in the fiery spirited women who fight for the spotlight against all odds. And I feel like this maybe encapsulates more the experience that I felt as a kid, you know, like being a gay kid and just seeing like this character failing and failing and failing again and just like trying her best and like not even being allowed to be like where to have like someone say, look, you're failing because you need to do this, you know, she's trying to do the way that she think is right, you know, she's trying to mimic like Jackie's parental style and it's just not working and everyone's angry at her, and the moment that she starts like to succeed is when she realizes, okay, I gotta be myself, you know, I'm never gonna be her. The kids are never gonna love me or want me present in their life the way that they love her or the way that they want her. So I gotta be like myself. And this is the moment that the movie kind of like picks up and she starts to fail. So I feel like this is like a very queer, like this is very like interpretation of why maybe the movie like resonated so much with me, especially with like Isabel, because apart from being like tall, glorious, beautiful, wearing like leather pants and sunglasses in a scene and being like fiery, spirited, rich and being blonde. You know, there's also like this sense of a character that is failing multiple times. She's failing like all the time. She's just like getting like people are just like throwing knives at her and she's like always trying to stand up and being like, okay, so I'm here, you know, I'm just gonna rise up and try again. So maybe that kind of seeing as an adult now, maybe that kind of resonated with me, especially like as a queer person, you know, as a gay boy. It's something that is very powerful. So I feel like even though the article is not about like women, this kind of encapsulates very well why maybe the character of Isabel is very queer, apart from her being a lesbian with Susan Sarandon, which is also like the queerest of queer, you know, just two women maximizing the joint sleigh. It's what this movie is about. And kids. And that Lemony Snicket's movie was very queer coded, you know? It's just, I mean, Hunger Games it is, but like that movie was just like, it was for the gays, you know? That movie was not for the straight people. Not with that colors and not with Meryl Streep. Jim Carrey, that was a queer movie. I think like this is it. I had like a bigger script, but I feel like in the end, maybe this is like the message that I wanted to pass. That is, why does this movie resonated so much with me as a kid? And I feel like I maybe like I answered the question for now. So thank you so much for watching. If someone's gonna watch, and if you feel like I didn't talk crap for 20, 30 minutes, like live a like for quite some time now, I wanted to get to do a YouTube video. So I'm just kind of like putting myself out there and trying to find strangers who don't think I'm crazy in some point and just having fun, you know. So it was like really fun to go back and watch this movie and watch as a 26-year-old. It's very different than watching it as like an 8-year-old and as a kid. So I feel like I could like analyze much better and realize why this was so important for me back then, which is it's always like a fun thing to do. So let's try to do that together. And for the next episode, I haven't decided yet, but I think like I want to explore like other two movies. One being Resident Evil 2 because it has like two Bobs. It has the Jill Valentine's Bob and Alice kind of like has a bob in that movie as well. And also, I wanna also like go back to Charlize Theron in Aeon Flux because that's it's not even a bob, it's a bow cut, but you get the feeling. So strong women like fighting against all odds. So let's this is like the Bobology, like the Bob series, you know, the Bobs that changed my life. Again, so thank you very much. Leave a like, drop a comment if you want, and I hope I can carry on through like this maniac stage and make the next videos because it's been like really fun making this one. So thank you very much and bye bye.